Michelle at the Cape May County Library, here with Doug Otto, newspaper columnist, featured writer of South Jersey Magazine, former teacher. Aside from those things, he's done a lot of work in the community around Cape May County. He's ran multiple workshops. He was a part of the Beach Bards in Seattle City as a featured writer. He's also had a poetry and prose night going for a while in the 4th Street Cafe in Ocean City. And I just want to thank you for all the work you've done in our community. I think it's really fantastic to sort of cultivate this area and bring some more writers, bring some more culture into it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
And thanks for being here.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
So being at the Cape May County Library, I just need to know, what was your favorite book as a child?
My favorite book as a child was probably To Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay, nice.
It was introduced to me in school, and it was very topical of the times, the 60s, the time that I'm a child of the 60s. And it covered a lot of issues that were going on at the time, but the characterization was neat. It was neat to me to see a child as the narrator.
Oh, cool.
And then the strong characterizations. And I'm a Harper Lee fan. The fact that she only wrote one book, other than her follow-up posthumously, the Rosetta Watchman. And I was always fascinated by the fact that the character Dill was modeled after Truman Capote.
Okay.
And Truman was a childhood friend and a lifelong friend of Harper Lee.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so two writers helping each other out.
Oh, cool. Okay, so our next question is very important. Which mythological creature do you think best represents you?
That was a very interesting question, because especially since I taught mythology when I was an English teacher from Edith Hamilton's mythology.
Cool.
And you had me scratching my head a little bit, but I fell back on the mythological creature of Proteus.
Okay.
Proteus was the son of Poseidon, and living on an island, I thought that was appropriate, because he was a sea god. And the thing that impressed me about Proteus was that he could change his form, just much like the oceans change and the rivers change. Being a water god, he was versatile, he was adaptable, and I saw that as qualities that writers have to have.
Cool. Nice, that's a really good thing. So, what are some of your favorite places to explore, sit in Cape May County?
Okay, probably the place that's number one is on the southern tip of Ocean City where I live, is Corson's Inlet State Park. And I'll go there often, and it's so different from the rest of the island because it's away from all the noise and the crowds, and it's probably what the island was like originally. There are towering sand dunes there. There are walking paths throughout. You can go from the bay to the ocean.
Wow.
And the neatest thing is when you come to the end of the main path, as you approach the ocean, you can't see it, but you can hear it. And you're surrounded by vegetation, and it kind of ramps up. And as you get to the top of the sand dune, there it is. There's the ocean.
Very cool.
So that's one of my favorite places. And there's a great poem by A.R. Ammons, who he entitled the poem Corson's Inlet. And he used to live in Ocean City for a while. His father-in-law, I think, worked at Looking Glass, so he worked there for a while. He eventually ended up teaching at Cornell University. And but that poem is one of his signature poems, especially for the sand.
Really cool.
Other things I like, I love to drive down Route 9.
Yeah.
It's not the Broad State Parkway. It winds around. You get to see the landscape. You get to see some interesting sights of homes, and it just winds very, very nicely.
Yeah. You always forget living around here how nice traveling Route 9 could be, especially, because it's just like, gotta get get going as fast as we can to where we gotta go.
Yeah. And the other, if I can just throw in one more thing,
yeah.
Just north of the canal, I love the Delaware beachfront.
Oh,
going up there. It's just, again, it's quiet, contemplative, and just different from the tourist side of this
definitely
area.
Underrated for sure.
Yeah.
So getting to some more heavier questions, what were some of the earliest memories you have of writing? Was there a specific moment that you can pinpoint that inspired you to be a writer?
Yeah, I have one here, if I could read you a little introduction.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
I put together a little book called Clips, and I tried to put together some of the things that I had originally published, but the beginning, if I could just read it.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you so much.
When I these on these will help. When I was 11 years old, my parents gave me the most wonderful birthday gift, a tabletop printing press. It was a small silver cylinder onto which I attached trays of individual red rubber letters. When locked into place and inked, the rows of letters were hand cranked to produce words, sentences, and paragraphs that printed on paper. In a very small way, I had been given the opportunity to try to imitate the writers and publishers whom I admired so much. To this day, I'm still trying to meet that challenge. I had discovered over the years that I understand best when a message is delivered visually. I respond to and communicate ideas from a visual standpoint. Maybe that is why I've always been drawn to the medium of ink on paper. As a boy, I collected stamps, ink on paper. Then there were baseball cards, ink on cardboard, and later, airplanes. So,
thank you so much for sharing that with us. So did you say that gift is your?
yeah, that was probably the start, along with some other things, as we spoke about earlier. I remember in 8th grade, Mrs. Ball's 8th grade English class, she actually read before the entire class an essay that I had written. And I sat in my seat and I was just amazed that somebody had recognized something that I had written. And it actually seemed to be enjoyed by the rest of the class. And I thought, well, maybe that's something I could do more often.
Nice. That's great. So something that interests me that you were telling me about is you were a sports editor. Can you talk a little bit about how you became or what drew you to being a sports editor? And
Yeah, when I entered high school, I joined the newspaper staff. Again, it was a continuation of the writing. And eventually, by the time I was a junior, I was nominated and given the job of sports editor. And I had an affinity to that, I guess, because I've always been interested in sports. I played baseball in high school, and I'm a golfer right now. And it was something that I enjoyed about being outside. Not necessarily the competitive side of it, but just enjoying the sport and the game itself. I enjoyed writing about different athletes, about different contests. I learned about different sports by doing that. And at one point, I actually sent scores into the Courier-Post, which is a local newspaper where I lived, and they would actually print the scores, and so that gave me the thrill of being part of a bigger endeavor.
Nice. I'm sure the burning question on everyone's mind is, who is your favorite baseball team?
Anybody who knows me knows I do like the Phillies.
Okay, good.
Followed them for years.
Just so it's not a riot here later.
But the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, cool.
And my connection there is my father.
Nice.
He introduced me. He took me to my first baseball game at Connie Mack Stadium. I can't tell who won. It was back a few years ago, but they played the Phillies. And my boyhood idol was Stan Musial. I saw him as an upstanding, great player.
Nice. Cool. Well, thank you so much for that. So the next question is, what do you find particularly interesting in writing poetry and prose, which is?
I think the fact that you can bring something that you've experienced, something that is important to you, either inside or outside of you, and bring it to a larger scale, hopefully to a larger audience. But even if it doesn't go to an audience, even for yourself, it expresses something that you have within, something that you've visually taken in, something that exists within, and there's a calm to that, especially with poetry. The prose, and a lot of my prose has been newspaper columns, newspaper writing, public relations. It allows me to expand, get to know other people, get to know other situations, takes you into other situations, and it actually is a reflection of yourself. How do you react to those situations? What do you deem important about them? And hopefully it's done in a truthful manner, so that it can be enjoyable.
Nice, yeah. Okay, so today with all that is happening in the world, how has it changed your view of the importance of writing in the spoken word and storytelling in general?
I think, as within the last year, as we've drifted indoors more, although we have a beautiful day here today,
Yeah.
being outside is very nice. I think people have become more attuned to literary aspects. I see more reading going on. I see people watching things on TV, but they have a literal nature to them. A lot of movie watching, a lot of podcast listening to. People are, I think, appreciating the arts aspect, but it all begins with the written word. It all goes back to that. It doesn't get started unless there's something written down.
Yeah. Cool. Is it okay if you were to talk about a little bit of your teaching experience, just in general?
Yeah, sure. I taught high school English for 7 or 8 years, and before I became a school administrator. But I've always kept that the English writing interest. I extended it after I left those positions, and attended a lot of writing conferences across the Northeast. And one of the groups that I'm particularly interested in talking about is a group that the Cape May County Library sponsors down in Seahouse City, the Seahouse City Library branch. Dr. Tony Libro and Cape May County employee Wendy Kaplan run a group called the Beach Bards. And for the last 5 years, they have invited writers to come and present what they have written. There's a feature writer who gives a talk, and then there's an open mic afterward. And I think it extends the interest in the literary arts that I've found throughout Cape May County. There are a lot of groups that meet at the library. I'm a member of a group called the Jersey Cape Writers, who meet actually at this branch here, the courthouse branch. And there are many other groups around like that. And I hope that they flourish because they're adding to the cultural scene of the county.
Definitely. So are there any pieces you brought with us that you'd like to share with us and give us a little story about?
Yeah, sure. I thought this might be the proper setting since we're on the library grounds. When I was growing up, my father was in sales, so we moved around quite a bit. I think I lived in 8 or 9 different towns by the time I was in 6th grade.
Wow.
And every time I'd go to a new town, I was the new kid around. I drifted toward a library because the library was kind of a safe sanctuary. Libraries are basically the same. There's a main desk, there's stacks of books and so on. So the library was a very important aspect of my upbringing. I wrote a poem based on some of those experiences. If you wouldn't mind.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
It's called JCPL, and I think those letters will become evident. My Chuck Taylor All-Stars squeak like 2 excited mice crossing the shellacked oak floor of the Johnson City Public Library, while the Sentinel grandfather clock in the children's reading room next to the brick fireplace becomes a metronome slicing through the silence. I tiptoe past the reference section, along the periodicals, and enter the catacombs of the 10-foot stacks, packed with rainbow-colored spines, stamped with Mr. Dewey's numerals. My perfect bound and paperback soldiers stand for my attention, emitting their musty ambrosia, filling my nostrils and the vacant spaces of my head with heavenly satisfaction. Deep into my sanctuary, ensnared in the web of the 800s, I sit cross-legged, flipping through yellowed, often crumbling leaves, stamped by woodblocks, protected by vellum and mystery. And outside, through the tall stained glass cathedral windows, with their mullions and waist-high sills holding potted plants, the muffled yelps of classmates running through the Memorial Park, tagging, punching, wrestling each other to the cross-cut ground, while I am hugged snugly by the arms of an overstuffed, floral-patterned reading chair, hunting game in Africa with Hemingway, bound for West Egg to meet Gatsby.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
what my next question is going to be. I'll edit that. Oh yeah, did you have other pieces you wanted to share with us real quick? Anything else?
Yeah, I'm particularly fond of this. This is a booklet that I taught composition for a couple of years at Atlantic Cape Community College. And one of the projects, I always tried to get the students to open up and be awake to writing, and that everybody has a story. And there was a project in the school based on the StoryCorps project, which is an NPR project, and it was about interviewing someone and telling their story. So I paired the students off and asked them to interview each other, take copious notes, and then write a story based on the other person. And this was a collection called The Conversation of a Lifetime. And I'm particularly proud of that because we self-published this, we handed it out, and it was the conversations of their students. And every single story has the lives of each of these students has something important and interesting to say. So I'm particularly proud of that.
Is there a place you could find that? I know you said you self-publish it.
We just self-published, very small.
Gotcha.
And headed it out to ourselves. I have a copy.
Cool. Is there any other ones you wanted to share?
One other one, yeah, I'd like to. I could. An article that I happened to laminate. This was an article when I was a columnist for the Courier Post. They sent me, actually my work sent me on a trip. I accompanied the National Guard from McGuire Fort Dix Joint Base, and we went down to San Antonio, Texas, and I covered the story. It was called Operation Boss Lift, and what happens is every year the National Guard, in order to thank employers for giving time to the National Guard, allowing their employees to be away from work, they take the bosses and show them what the Guard does. So this was a story that about my accompanying the National Guard down to San Antonio, and it was I started by saying for years I had heard stories. I never served in the military, but this actually brought it home, and so I'm particularly proud of that because it showed the service lives of these men and women and all that they sacrificed.
Very cool. Thank you. And just to end with, do you have any upcoming projects that you'd like to share with us? Any information?
I'm looking at my years in writing, and I'm thinking about taking, such as this piece here, putting them together and maybe for myself, for my family, self-publishing something and kind of cataloging them all together, just so that a little family legacy of that type.
Nice.
Self-publishing has become a very accepted way to publish these days. A lot of presses, you don't have to go to one of the top 10. You can do it yourself. And I always encourage, when I'm teaching writing workshops, I always encourage the staff, the students, if there's something you want to leave behind, something that you want to catalog, self-publish it. It's very easy to do and inexpensive.
Nice, great. So if we were to find information on you, do you have a website, an email address that we could?
I have an email address.
Okay.
It's DougOttoWrites@gmail.com.
Great.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for being here with us. This was